So with this coronavirus, obviously total economic collapse. I mean, realistically, there are many jobs that are never going to come back. There are many restaurants that are unlikely to be able to stay operational without major help. And the help that was given is really for big corporations, and it's really just a massive transfer of wealth to the 1%. So that bill is not going to help you. It's not. One $1,200 check that you might get or might not, because you might not qualify. It's means tested. It's really a tax advance on your taxes for next year. Like, it's everything about it is like, all right, fine, we'll give you $1,200, but only if we give $4 trillion for Wall Street and all big corporations, which don't really need it. We want almost no oversight. We want the ability to have the oversight be eliminated easily. We want them to easily be able to go back on the few limitations we're going to place on the money. And then I guess we'll give you a $1,200 kind of tax credit situation that's going to affect your next tax refund. Like, that's literally the only way that neoliberals and the political class and the 1% and, all those people in the hierarchy of the class system here in America, the only way that they'll even give you $1,200 is if it comes with an insane amount of strings attached for you and none for their $4 trillion of discretionary spending for Steve Mnuchin to do, who, by the way, foreclosed on like old ladies illegally, and then Kamala Harris, cop, did not prosecute him. So, I'm not going to... Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this mostly positive, but I do want to lay out the reality of the situation so that you understand that this is robbery. This is fucking highway robbery, dude. And this is like in the middle of the day robbery where the police are in on it and they're like, nah, I'm not stopping him. He can just loot the treasury. It's fine. So, this situation, it's a gross injustice of inequality. And we already had such like insane inequality of wealth in America. And I just don't understand, like, what do these greedy motherfuckers need, dude? Like, what else is left to take, bro? You got everything. Everyone's got crumbs. We're starving. People don't even have $500 emergency, and now they really don't. What more do you want? Do you want us to storm the Bastille? Like, do you want heads rolling on the floor? Because that's what's going to end up happening. And I don't want that to happen, Like, I want a revolution politically, but not physically. I don't actually want violence, I just want us to oust corrupt motherfuckers from government and put in good people. That's all I want. I think it's pretty simple. And we've shown that we can do it totally peacefully. We can just take back certain districts. We can take back certain seats in Congress. It can be done. We have people in Congress now that actually represent people. Now, do they have enough power yet? No, but they're there. And that's a step in the right direction, right? So we just need to replicate that a few more times. It's easier to get people in Congress with less money than it is to try to get the president. And as of the time that I'm recording this, Bernie has officially dropped out. I'm deeply saddened by that because Joe Biden ain't it. He ain't it. And anybody who is saying vote blue no matter who, like, dude, I'm sorry, but the guy's basically a Republican. He's just conservative light. I mean, and that's what most, liberal Democrats are, is like conservative light. They're really like the same party, but just not as racist, just not as terrible, but also still bad, So the whole thing's very frustrating. We have no opposition party. It's literally like we have the people who are just blatantly just robbing the country blind for corporate welfare, being the Republicans. And then you have the people who pay lip service to good causes, but then do literally nothing, and almost seems like they're like losing on purpose. Like, it's so weird. It seems like, how can you be so inept, and how could you choose so many bad political moves that always end up putting you in a spot where you're going to lose? Like, I just don't get it. I really don't understand the Democrats. I just don't get it. I hate the party. I hate the party. Never been a part of it. Never been a Democrat in my life. I've always been an independent. And although I am left-leaning, obviously, and I identify with specific policies that are supposedly represented by the Democrats. They're not, though. So we have a party that just openly fucking sucks. Then we got a party that like pretends to not suck, but then not only sucks, but like sucks at politics. Like literally it's just not good. Like if they were playing chess, they'd lose every time. You know what I mean? Like they literally like, oh, I'll sacrifice the queen for this pawn. Like what? Why are you doing that? You're an idiot. But that's what the fucking party is. They're like, let's put up this half-brained, sunsetting Republican light who literally has sexual assault allegations against him. And let's put it up against dementia-ridden Donald Trump, who barely can form a thought either, but yet somehow is like more witty when he's in it than Joe is. And that's the thing. It's like Joe's mind is like gone, dude. Joe's mind, like, because I've watched videos from him from like 4 years ago. It really is genuinely like a different Joe. Like he was way more like if the Joe from 4 years ago was running now, I would still not vote for him, but I would feel more confident. Like, well, at least he's competent, but like, I don't even feel like Joe's competent. That being said, he's still obviously objectively better than Trump, but not that much better. Like his policies, he's not even willing to go into Medicare for all during a fucking pandemic. He said he'd veto it. What? Dude. And then like, oh, you can keep your health care if you want it, except if you're one of the 10 million people who filed for unemployment in the last 2 weeks. Then you're just fucked. Good luck paying the COBRA prices, which are insane. And for those who don't know, COBRA is kind of like a transitionary period from when you lose your health insurance from your job and you're able to keep paying for some sort of coverage for like a period of time. I don't know if it's a few months or whatever. And it's generally just very expensive. Not to mention insurance companies are already saying they're going to hike up premiums by 40% next year. So like the whole thing is just, I mean, he just has bad political instincts. And there are so many clips of him saying, I tried to pimp myself out. I tried to whore myself out to the rich guys and they told me no. Like he literally is like, he openly like was like, I tried to sell out. So that's the fucking candidate that the Democrats have put up. And it was because they couldn't get any of the other candidates that they really wanted through. Like they really wanted Pete Buttigieg or they really wanted Amy Klobuchar. They were just trying to make it happen. They're like propping up mainstream media to just be like, yes, please, Amy, yes, save us. Boo, boo, boo. But like, meanwhile, fucking Joe was the only one who like had any chance of like winning a couple states and versus Bernie. And the second they realized, dude, no one's going to be able to beat Bernie, they literally, Obama made phone calls and said, bro, you got to drop out. You got to endorse Joe. And so one thing that I really want to emphasize on this, and I don't want to spend too much more time on the politics aspect of this, but is that it took the entire establishment coordinating, dropping out candidates left and right, endorsing, getting every endorsement in the book, voter suppression like crazy, closing polls, having people vote during the pandemic. All these things they tried to do, and it did win. It was enough, but it took that. It took that to win. That means that they are fucking losing, dude. That you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You really can't. I think Bernie has honestly opened some things up in a way that, I'm sorry, we're not going back. Like it or not, even though these neoliberals pretend like Medicare for all is a political loser, and by the way, it means political loser for their money, political loser for the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies that are going to pay for their campaigns. That lie is gone because, one, before this pandemic, Medicare for all was overwhelmingly popular in all of the exit polls. And even it's overwhelmingly popular, not necessarily as big of a lead, but it is even in Republican circles. Like more Republicans support it than don't. So, that one's a little closer to like 50 something to 40 something. Whereas like Medicare for all with Democrats in various states has been as high as like 70%, in favor. So clearly the policy is overwhelmingly popular. And I think the need for having a universal healthcare system has been greatly emphasized in this circumstance where you lose your job, you lose your health care, but you just lost your health care in the middle of a pandemic. So not only did you lose your source of income, but you lost your sense of security of if you're sick, that you can even go to the doctor, which is only going to further exacerbate the virus spread, because people who are sick, who need the attention, are not going to go get it. And then the people who do get the attention and they do get the help, they're going to then go bankrupt because they can't afford the cost of treating it or having a ventilator or any of these other things. So it's like, this is a moment for us as a country to come to grips with the reality that universal healthcare is an existential threat to our country, because you are only as safe as your sickest neighbor. You really are. And if we had universal healthcare, does it stop the virus? No. Does it solve the virus alone? No. But what it does do is it guarantees that people are not going to economically be ruined, or simply die from not being able to get the care because they can't afford it. So I think either one of those things has obviously been demonstrated as hugely important. And I think we've come to the conclusion as a society that it's clear that we need to join the rest of the countries in the world that have already done it. I love when people try to tell me like, oh, you couldn't do that here in America. And I was like, that's stupid. It already exists. Clearly we could do it here. It's, do we want to? Do we have the political will? So the coronavirus, it's crazy. There have been an insane amount of deaths already. We've already had like 4 9/11s as of the time of recording this, which is just crazy to me to even think about. And we're likely to have potentially 100,000, 200,000 deaths. And this is all due to the incompetence of Trump. Trump literally did nothing about it for months, even though he knew and was warned that we needed to start ramping up production for these things. We had people literally like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago selling ventilators overseas from companies that exist in America when we're short on the supply. I mean, like, the shit's insane. And not to mention, the Defense Production Act is literally designed for this exact circumstance. It's like the most American shit of all time. This shit was designed in a time of war where we have the ability to command our existing infrastructure of manufacturing in America to manufacture the things needed for a time of a crisis. And it's not like these companies aren't getting paid to do this. We're still going to pay them well to make sure that they do this, but we need them to, instead of making a bunch of fucking pencils, we need them to start making some ventilators shit. Horrible example because they're not related, but you get what I'm saying. So Trump is to blame on the extent of the damage that is going to be caused by this. Obviously, he didn't cause the virus, but he is making it worse objectively in almost every way. Then you got Joe Biden, who's not even being in opposition right now, just being like, Medicare for all wouldn't help at all. Meanwhile, he forgets where he is in the middle of the interview. He literally had to have his wife, talk for him for like the first 2.5 minutes of his live stream because he just can't get through a sentence, dude. It's embarrassing. And the fact that people are hiding this or trying to hide it under the fact that like, oh, well, he had a stutter, so that's why. Like, dude, that's actually offensive to people who really like, and I know he had a stutter, but it's offensive to people who really have a stutter and really struggle with it because he did actually overcome his stutter, okay? This is a guy who 4 years ago, you wouldn't be saying the same things you're saying now. It's just objectively true that he's just getting old. It's fine. Everybody gets old. I have 2 grandmas with dementia, okay? The shit's close to me. I recognize it. I've seen it before. I know what it looks like. He literally looks like my grandma's, honestly. He looks like my grandma's in that circumstance where, he gets a little lost. He doesn't really know where he is. And I just think to hide that glaringly obvious weakness, not to mention they just did a poll of like people who are excited, like they wanted to poll the level of excitement for him, enthusiasm, and he polled lower than Hillary Clinton at the same stage. Dude, Hillary Clinton, as much as I didn't like her, was a better candidate than him, and she still lost. So I don't know. I mean, I think they just want Trump to win. I don't think they even want Joe Biden to win. I think there's power in being the opposition party. But yeah, so anyway, I got all that off my chest. I wanted to complain about those things because I do think that, like, when Joe loses, and here's the thing, if it were to happen today, I think Joe would lose. in the future, it's hard to say. Some shit could go really south during this pandemic, and it's possible that actually could, despite Joe being the worst candidate of all time, he might still win because Trump fucked up the pandemic so bad and we're in total economic collapse. That might be the only thing that could get Joe over the finish line. Otherwise, I don't know. He just ain't it.